Today I'm diving into another project, creating a Frankenstein Amiga from various parts I have lying around. Most of these parts come from a job lot of leftover spares I found on eBay. You might be wondering why I'm doing this. Well, I'm sort of challenging myself, and I offered to build an Amiga for a charity auction organised by a friendly man named Lee from the YouTube channel More Fun Making It.
Hello, it's me again. I accept.
There's something a little strange going on with this Amiga 500 revision 5. It seems that not all the RAM chips are managing to output TTL logic levels based on what I'm seeing on the scope. Diagram is giving me random green and blue flashes, so I'm going to pull all the RAM out and socket it. Having the RAM in sockets will be a much better solution for the new owner, especially if any of the RAM I'm installing goes bad in the future. My master plan here is to mark the rows of pins I need to desolder, so I don't end up desoldering anything unnecessary. In a moment you'll witness this masterstroke of genius thwarted by my consistent stupidity and aging eyesight. So here we go. As I told you right from the start, the first thing I desolder, ignoring my marks, is the resistor pack. Well, let's just start that out and pretend that no one noticed. Now all the RAM has been removed, we just need to unblock the pads and clean up the flux. Before we can solder in any of the new sockets for the RAM, we need to tack back in those resistor packs, the ones I unsoldered for no reason earlier. Not that I'm planning to put any of the original RAM back in, but let's go ahead and test it to see if it shows up as bad. Well, would you Adam and Eve it? All of the RAM tests good. I suppose the heat from the desoldering of the chips might have revived it, or maybe the logic levels I saw are enough for the tester but not for the Amiga. Or perhaps the RAM isn't the issue and we've got something else causing the Amiga not to function. Sponsors of this video are PCBWay. They provide PCB prototype fabrication from as little as $5. They also have a huge library of shared projects, and if you're not confident with a soldering iron, you can get them to assemble them for you. PCBWay also have CNC machining and 3D printing services. All of this is available at PCBWay.com. Thanks PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Time to start putting the sockets in. 16 times 16 pin dip sockets, that's 256 solder points, plus the resistor packs that I unsoldered for no reason. We best get cracking. Because I have a couple of cuts on my hands that I don't particularly want to get flux and IPA in, I'd best adorn myself with some Smurf skin gloves. I'm going to tack in one socket and solder it up to make sure I'm happy with the temperatures before I go broke and install all the rest. You might need to go a touch hotter to solder the voltage planes. I've tacked in the rest using the two voltage pins, 5 volts and ground. Now I just need to solder in the rest of the pins and clean up the flux. That's all the sockets installed. Now they just need chips. I was going to do this off camera, but then I remembered someone saying they hated turn pin sockets because they're hard to line up with the chip pins. So I thought I'd showcase how I do it. I just love getting trolled about my technique. This is just how I do it. It's not advice. I'm not a chip insertation instructor. If you don't like it, don't do it. I'm just saying it works for me. All the RAM is installed and looking lovely. I took the liberty of fixing the ROM socket so it will take a 27C400 EPROM or a later mask ROM. This is another future-proofing step for the next owner, should they want to upgrade to a later Kickstart version. Diagram installed, let's see what it says. We have life. Oh, and I've cleaned up the flux and covered the bodge wires from the ROM socket modification. We have a working board, but we need more than that to build a full Amiga. In the same job lot of parts, I have several bits of keyboards. This is where it gets even more Frankenstein. The keys aren't laid out in the same way as my other 500s. I think this is from an earlier keyboard. The controller is from a Rev 6, green power light. I must remember to keep this away from floppies. If you can properly identify the original revision any of these parts came from, then please comment below. Just a billion screws now. Let's hook it all back up with the keyboard and make sure it's happy before we swap out Diagram for Kickstart and try booting the Amiga into test kit. The next step is to get it to boot into Workbench and see if we can load Star Tracker from the external Gotek drive. Loading a module and playing it will give I/O, graphics and RAM a fairly good workout. All good so far, but since we've opened Pandora's box, why not see if we can get that 512K of RAM in the trapdoor to be chip RAM? Having a total of 1 meg chip RAM opens more games and options for the next owner. We just need an 8372A Agnes and a little modification. JP2 needs to be swapped, we need to cut a trace from Gary to the trapdoor, and we need to cover pin 41 on Agnes to keep it in PAL and prevent it from switching to NTSC. While you weren't looking, I've sprinkled a little cosmetic customization over this A500. All we need now is a case.